was all set to go and so on, and this textbook was published. And it hit the top of the bestseller list of the New York Times, and it just stayed there month in, month out. And that was 15 years ago, and this book still sells as a bestseller every year.
What was this called?
Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health.
Now, why did the name change?
Because Dianetics is through mind, you see, and is in essence actually a mental study. Scientology had to be broadened because it was more firmly established that man was a spirit after that, and you couldn't go along with the same word.
Now, when was this book published?
1950, May the 9th, 1950.
And is that as old as Scientology or Scientology Dianetics is?
Yes, yes. Well, actually, no. Researches on this really started in university in 1930, 31. And moved on forward. The first major discovery that life, all forms of life, behaved according to the principle of survival and so forth was made in 1938. And after the war, after some years of study, I was able to move it up into a publishable form. But I was actually known for many years for working in this particular field, but I never wrote anything about it, never published anything, never told anybody about it to amount to anything. And when I did, it was like I started an avalanche.
Now, if someone wants to get into Scientology, they read your books, as you said, but where do they go from there?
They would find the nearest organization, and they would go there, and they would get training, or as we call it, processing, and so on.
Can you describe processing?
Processing is the principle of making an individual look at his own existence and to improve his ability to confront what he is and where he is.
To make him look at his own existence.
That's right.
And confront where he is and what he is.
That's right.
How is this brought about?
You just ask the person to look, actually. Of course, you're asking a very, very technical question. An auditor has to be able to get his questions answered, and the individual who's being processed finally has to answer the question. The question is asked until it is totally answered and the person is totally aware that he has answered it.
Is this a form of psychoanalysis?
No, psychoanalysis, they lay back. Don't associate Scientology with such people. That's terrible. That's bad manners, you know. I mean, that business about sex and all that sort of thing. These people, you know, in psychoanalysis, they worked on somebody for a year just to find out if they could help him, and then they charged him about 9,000 quid for having not helped him and so forth. But that's psychotherapy. That's for the neurotic or the person who is insane or something like that. That has nothing to do with Scientology. Scientology is for an able guy like you or like me, able to function in life, able to make his own way, does his work and so forth. All right, that's the man that should be helped. That's the man you should help out, because that fellow is having a hard time. And he's got his problems. Now, if you put him in a position where his intelligence is up to handling his problems, where his ability to confront life is increased, you'll find out that he is better. He can better his environment. He can take care of his family better. He can do his job better. He can live better, and so forth. And that's all we want in Scientology. The insane and so forth, somebody else can have them. They've already failed.
But you did say that people coming into Scientology should have this desire to help.
Oh, yes.
Cannot Scientology go out of its way to help these people who are perhaps not completely sane?
Oh, yes, you can do. Scientology could do things like that. When you know the basics of human existence and so forth, you could apply them in almost any sphere. For instance, a great many people think that Scientology does medical treatment and so forth simply because people who are processed and so on tend to get well and recover from certain illnesses. That's a secondary action. A person who is able, of course, is more able physically also. And however, when a person turns up who is ill and so forth, we just send him to the doctor. We're not interested in treating human illness.
You said it could help certain illnesses, though. What kind of illnesses?
Oh, it is not. It is not, in actual fact, medical treatment. So to say what illnesses it helps and so forth would be, well, if a person has psychosomatic illnesses and that sort of thing, and they tend to fall away as he increases his ability. But this is no treatment of those illnesses.
Now, if this is correct, why don't the medical profession use Scientology?
They do. They do in many parts of the world. As a matter of fact, a doctor in Michigan the other day told somebody that Dianetics was totally owned by the medical profession now and didn't belong to Hubbard anymore.
Scientology has attracted a lot of publicity in the press, and the press has said that it tends to be something of a racket to make money for those people who are running it.
No, that of course, most press is motivated by vested interests, as anyone knows, and they merely say what they're told to say. And when you realize that the medical psychiatric world have an investment which brings a return of 2 to 3 billion pounds per annum over the world, they try to protect that. And that is the source of criticism of Scientology. These statements about this, that, and the other thing, any new movement gets these things, and in Scientology those are not based on any fact at all. As a matter of fact, I don't make any money out of Scientology, and it cost me I don't know how much of my own personal fortune to do the research, and I've not been recompensed for it ever.
And you mentioned then that man is a spirit. Can you define this spirit in terms of Scientology? Oh,
yes. Man has been interested for a very long time in what was a spirit and so on. And he was very, very mystified as to what a spirit was. And he talked about ghosts and places being haunted and so on. This is a whole line of approach. He talked about the human soul, and it went to heaven and it went to hell and so forth. And he was very much adrift about this thing. He was both afraid of it and otherwise. And it was rather amusing to find out that he is it. He is a spirit, and the early Greek, for instance, worked along this line. They wanted to know what man was. They concluded that he was a spirit clothed in flesh, and that happens to work out, and so forth. The reason Scientology's assumptions can be considered to be true is because they work. And Scientology is totally a workable science. It is only workable. We're not interested in ultimate or absolutes. We're interested in what produces results. And if you know certain things and you apply them, and that then increases a man's IQ, increases his ability to handle the world around him, why, he naturally then is able to do better and to do more, to make more money, to be happier in his environment and so forth. And if you approach it as though he were a spirit, then you succeed. If you approach it as though he were just a mechanical monster of some kind or another, 10 stones of flesh or something like that, well, you don't increase his IQ and so on. So we, of course, prefer, maybe we are novel in this, but we prefer the tactics which work, not the tactics which are merely stylized or which we're supposed to have.
But in your processing, you work on the mind, don't you?
Well, yes.